Hi friends, it's Priscilla from Heart and Soul Studio in Sutter Creek. Today we will be painting this cute little Dixie cow. She's very animated, so just have fun with it. Nothing has to look precise. We've got these fun little floral arrangement on her forehead there, and I'll be showing you how to work through that at the end. But to get started, I just want to show you my colors and what brushes I'm going to be using. Just kind of make do with what you have. If you don't have the exact same brushes that I have, that's okay. So here is the sketch on the canvas. The first thing I'm going to do is start by going in and outlining the cow with a little liner brush. And I'm going to use the black and a little bit of the dark brown paint. Okay, so I've got dark brown, a medium brown, dark blue, medium blue, a green, a black, and a white. And I'm going to make a gray with the black and white that I have there for some of the little muzzle bits. Some of those parts here we'll just make our own gray. So just kind of start out here. So today I am videoing from my shop on Main Street in Sutter Creek. I do have a little coffee shop next door that stays pretty busy, and sounds like this morning there's quite a few people out there. So if you hear some background noise, that's what you're hearing. This little outline will just kind of give you something to follow along with, so as you're painting you don't lose your lines. And this bit up here has a tendency to get lost, so just know that this is not part of the ear, this is the little hair flip. And to do all this outlining, I'm just using a little dip of the brown and some of the black. If you need to rotate your canvas so that you can get these edges and angles, it's perfectly acceptable to do that. For the sake of the video, I'm going to try not to flip the canvas around too much, just so you don't get disoriented. So everything over here on this right side of the painting, this is going to be our shadow side. So you could be heavy-handed over here and make everything on this side much darker. And then as well, all of the colors from the bottom will be darker, just the way the sun hits. So like down here, you can do a pretty thick line, create a nice shadow. Whereas everything on the left side will be in the sunlight. So everything on the left side will be a little bit lighter. And you can even, do the lighter colors as you're tracing around on your outline. Pick up some more black on this side. So this eye part here, don't make it too thick. You want to stay on the inside of the eye. It'll look better later when we start doing the eyes. Go ahead and outline my flowers so they maintain their existence here. So this is going to establish my little grass line between my horizon. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to this bigger brush here, just a 1-inch chip brush. And I'm going to start filling in the background. I'm going to pick up this lighter blue and a little bit of white. I'm not really mixing them. I'm just dabbing my brush into each color. And this is just going to be a little bit of the background. Pick up a little bit of that green as well. Some of the darker blue. Just find a nice tone that suits you as you're mixing these colors. And if you see a color that, you know, makes you happy and you like more than another, then just, you know, keep picking that color up, brushing it in. Just don't over blend the colors, then it's gonna just look like one big color blob versus kind of like the, I don't know, kind of reminds me of like a portrait background, you know, with the, you can actually see the mottled kind of look throughout. And then we're just going to kind of loosely get that done. And we'll come back in and cut in with a smaller liner brush again. Now if you want to see some more green up here, go ahead and put my brush in the water, and I will start cutting in around this background with those same colors that I used before. Some green, some blue, some dark blue. And my brush stroke here is very choppy, I guess you would say. It's okay if you get in on that line you just created with the outline of the cow. Just kind of get in there really close. I kind of started on the background first so that you can establish being familiar with your paintbrush and how the paint is going to kind of spread across the canvas. So that way when you start working on your Dixie cow, you'll have a little bit more practice. You'll start to develop your own little style and technique for what you like, what brush strokes you want to see more of. So just keep doing more of what you like, what feels good, what's natural to you. You're not necessarily trying to copy what I'm doing. You're really just, enjoy yourself and find your own rhythm. Also remember that this left side of the sky is where the sun is going to be setting or highlighted. So we can actually pick up a little bit of white and make this side a little bit brighter than the right side. Then we start shadowing in all of the coat on the cow. That's going to be a lot of what comes into play is the highlights. So you can kind of see what I had on the original. We'll do that same sort of idea with the flowers. We'll keep everything highlighted to one side. I do like to paint the sides of the canvas, so be sure to do that as well. Take your time, work through all the little details and enjoy yourself. If you need to pause this video and come back after you've caught up, that seems to work well for people. If you need to go get a little coffee refill, whatever you need to do. It's kind of the beauty of painting at home. You need to get a smaller brush even to come back in and outline the rest of that background. Go right ahead. You can blend it out later. So this is just the first layer of this background. Throughout the painting, we'll come back in and keep adding to it with acrylic paint. That's one of the big secrets is it likes to be layered. Like let it dry a little, come back and scruff it up some more. Just don't want to overwork the colors. That way they maintain their boldness. Okay, so down here, this is just your green grassy field. You pick up a little bit of brown towards the bottom. Gonna rotate that for you so you can see. You don't necessarily want to see those lines that we painted in. We're just going to use them as kind of like a space marker. So go ahead and cover them up and blend them into your background. So that's a good first coat for the background. Go ahead and I just kind of keep tapping some of the same colors throughout the painting as I go. So if my brush still has a little bit of color on it, I'll just kind of keep tapping through. Just pushing down and kind of basically cleaning my brush off. I'm gonna go ahead and, since my brush still has some of this blue on it, I'm gonna do my little flowers so that they're drying. We can come back and highlight them. Flowers are seriously just little circles. You can make the 3 flowers, you know, a dark, a medium, and a light of these blues. You can add some other colors in. If you want pink flowers, that works too, if you've got some extra paints at home. Keep tapping that out. Okay, I'm rinsing all the blue from my brush. gonna start in with the body here. And I'm going to pick up this medium brown. And just the way we've kind of done the background on the sky, just going to loosely brush all of this in. And this will just become a first layer. Still a little bit of blue coming out on my brush, but that's okay. It's kind of pretty. You can go into your blue sky to kind of get rid of that outline. You don't really just want to see like a big prominent outline. Okay, and I picked up some of the darker brown, and I'm going to start coming in around the muzzle here and outlining this really much darker. You can even pick up just a touch of the black. Bring some dark shadowing all around. So this is going to be much darker down through here as well. I have not cleaned my brush off. I'm just using all the browns. I'm sticking the lighter browns to the left here, and then everything darker to the right, and down low, even darker. Again, you can break that line so it doesn't look too much like a coloring book. I'm just going to pick up a little tiny bit of black and white, and while my paint is still wet, I'm going to add some of that gray tone all throughout here. Just so the hide looks like, you know, it's a little weathered from the sun and the wind. And go all around the bottom edge here. This is really like a very loose painting, so that you're picking up all sorts of different brush strokes. Maybe even a little bit like a watercolor. It doesn't have to be totally precise. Like if you just let the paint kind of flow, you'll end up with something you weren't exactly expecting, but they all end up looking really nice with the way the paints blend. Okay, so on that body part, we're just going to give it a rest and move on to another section. That's a pretty good job for the first coat. You can see mine. As this paint dries, the next layer on top will build and give it some more depth. So you will end up with a lot of these shadowings, as long as you don't overwork it. So like that lighter green background, I came back on top with a drier, more full green, and that's where you can see the contrast. So the most important thing that I could say is not to overwork the paint. Just apply it and then let it dry, and then we'll come back to it. Okay, so I have not washed my brush yet. I'm going to pick up some of this darker brown and the medium brown together, and I'm going to brush in these just around the sides of the face here. And I'm gonna stay clear of the eyes at this point, and we'll come back and work on those together. Go ahead and put the little cowlick in here. You can start kind of designing the wave of the hair that's going to fall down, the bangs. It's kind of like a little swoosh. With the dark brown and just a little bit of black, I'm going to do this inner ear. Even pick up a little bit of the blue. And darken that up so it's not just black. Okay, with the medium brown, I'm going to come down center. I still have a little bit of that blue in my brush, but I like the way it looks because it's given it a little bit of a gray tone. On that brown, I've just picked up a daub of white and a little bit of the medium brown. I'm brushing in the shape of how that hair grows. So at this point I'm going to make, and I have not washed my brush still, so I'm going to make a little bit of gray. So I'm going to pick up some black and a little tiny bit of white, and over off in a section all on its own, I'm going to mix my own gray. It's a light gray. And it even has a little bit of brown and a little bit of green in it from previous brush strokes. So can you see that, my gray? So black and white, and just I have a tiny little bit of this blue mixed in as well. You don't need much. We're just gonna do this muzzle area. If you want to darken it up just a little bit, you can. Remember, the darker area is going to be down towards the bottom. You don't have to stay within your lines. You want to kind of blend those into your artwork. You can come back in with a little bit of that gray and add some more shadowing down into the body. Like I said before, as you have extra brush or paint on your brush, you can go around and add it to all the areas, just so there's kind of a cohesive blend to the project. And if you like the way it looks, you can add more. If you think you overdid it, just pick up some of the brown and brush it out. Okay, so down through this area, we're gonna make it a little bit darker than we did on this side, but not quite as dark as this background. So I'm gonna pick up the medium color all on its own. I'm just going to brush through. I'm starting down at the bottom and pulling up, so that way the full force of my paint, full color, is towards the bottom. And as I brush up, my brush stroke and the paint density is going to be a little bit lighter, which will also kind of mimic how the sunlight's, hitting the cow. Brush up into that lower lid there. So if you have a little bit smaller brush, you want to grab that so you can come in and start detailing in this lower lip, giving some shadows and highlights with it. I'm going to pick up just some full strength black and we're going to do the nostril. A little bit of green down here, like it was got some grass stain. Okay. Keep your liner brush nice and clean so that when you're ready to do some detailing, it's always ready. Rinse it out, bring it out of the water bucket, and twirl your bristles back into a point. So if you keep twirling them into a point, it'll stay nice for when you're ready to use it again. Okay, so we're going to work on this area over here, the ear. I'm going to pick up the dark brown, a little bit of the black, maybe just a touch of the blue. I'm just going to brush it out. Remember, that's a leaf, not part of the ear. It's part of the little flower crown. that little flower array that I have on there is just like the beginning of whatever you want it to be. You could bring it all the way in. And add a lot more flowers, or you can just you know, work with the 3 little flowers and the leaves. So this is supposed to be my dark side, so I'm going to come back in and clean my brush off a little bit here. Some of this darkest color from up in the ear. Okay, I'm finally going to rinse all that brown off my brush, and I'm going to add some green in those leaves. A little green and a little bit of the dark blue. And again, just go over those lines that we had originally established so that they're not so prominent. They're just more to the background. Add some of this back into your background or down at the bottom. Since you have green on your brush, you can have some fun down there, adding that around. Okay, so with the liner brush, we're going to start working on the eyes. Make like a little eyelid concoction here. That's the medium brown and the dark brown. Try not to rest your hand in a spot that's too wet. Bring that lid down. And then you can give a big eyeball here. You can just keep this in the brown for now, and then we'll come back in and add the black for the eyeball. But we're basically just creating like a little socket. And Dixie here, she's got some heavy eye makeup. Do the same thing over here. I'm going to pick up some black. Don't fill the entire eye in. We're just going to, with full black, just pick up some water and blend it out the rest of the way. So really heavy on the top part of the circle for the eyeball with black. And we'll just dab some water on our brush and use what's left to kind of bring it in. So under here, we're going to fill that in with just the dark. dark full strength, just the black. Those are just kind of the beginning. We'll have to let that dry and we'll come back and we'll add on to that. Give her some pupils. That'll help. Okay, so I still have my liner brush. I'm letting those eyes dry for now. I'm gonna come back in since I have black, and I'm gonna do the centers of my flowers. And those are also just black. Do the veins on your leaves. I'm going to do the little hair flip here with black outline. Give me something to follow with some lighter coloring in there. Anything with black right now, you'll want to come back in and touch up. Like we'll get these nostrils nice and dark. Okay, I'm rinsing off that liner brush. I'm going to use some of that gray again. And I'm going to start feathering the tops of these little hairs on the ears here. So it's just a real flick of the wrist. You do want to break that little line where that we outlined. You want to break that area and just be real wispy with your liner brush. Pick up a little bit more black and white to make some more gray for myself. And then from the center here, I want some little ear tufts to come out. So I'm flicking out. With some white and some of the medium brown, you can make a really pretty light highlight color. And you can come in and get the tips. And don't overwork those little wispies. It's really best, put a layer in and let it dry. That same color, that light brown, I'm going to add as a highlight for the bangs. You see here what we're looking for the bangs. These are what I'm calling bangs here. Kind of loosely let those fall over. You can see the eyes as well while we're looking here close up. We'll come back in and define those sockets and give a little bit more of the eyelid and then flick out with those eyelashes. If you want to pause this and take a little screenshot, you can flip back and forth too. That works too. At this point, we have most of our painting done, and now it's just all about the layering and the details. So the layering is pretty essential to letting the paint dry in between layers. So right now it's pretty rough, but as I go through and I keep giving it the layered painting, I'll achieve more of the look that I'm after. That's really all in the details. Okay, so I just did the ear. I'm going to go back up into the little bangs with a lighter brown. I'm going to follow along where I put that black. And I have my little liner brush here. Just picked up some white. I'm very, very loose with this. Doesn't have to be exactly like the original or anything. It's just however your hand feels comfortable flowing. You can even let some of it fall across the eye there, just a little. If you end your brush stroke with a little flick, it will give you that really pretty light kind of feathered look, as opposed to like a thick, heavy-handed ending. So start to the right and flick out towards the left. Over here on the right where we're starting, it's always a little jagged, but we can come back in and make our flower overlap that area, and the flower crown will hide a bunch of this parts that you maybe don't love. Okay, so while I have this color on my brush, I'm going to use it to feather out this little ear fluff over here. Remember, this side's going to be a little bit darker. Because it's in the shadow. I always just kind of pick up a little bit of the color, and off to the side here I can create my secondary colors. Add some little tiny highlights at the top of the ears with the white, where the sun's really hitting. Do the same over here with the bright white. Don't go overboard, don't put too many in. Okay, so I still have my liner brush, and I'm going to establish the center of that eye, give a pupil. It's just a nice little dab, like a kind of a little rectangle. And that'll give you something to work around. Okay, so this side's still just a little wet. I'm gonna let that dry some more before I come back in. So I still have some white on my brush. So I'm gonna start highlighting just around the muzzle, and down the face. Do the top of the eyelids. Just across this hump back here. Some highlight. It's very loose. Maybe back over here. So really, whatever part you feel like working on right now, this is just kind of like a good time to hit the pause button, come back in and do your detailing. If you're a little lost with something, you might want to step back, take a breath and, a break for a minute and come back and take a look at it. It always looks different when you reapproach something. Try not to get too close to the eyes there. Some of that color up here in the ear. So it's really just lots of little taps of color. Till you achieve the look you're after. So I've been kind of playing with my liner brush with all that brown. I'm going to rinse out the brown. I'm going to pick up a little bit of white. I'm going to work on the flowers for a second while everything else is drying. And a little bit of the white and put it there and grab up some of this blue. And I'm going to make a pretty highlight for those flowers. So more white than blue here. And I'm going to try to keep all the highlights on the left side. Remember I was saying we can cover up that hair area with some of these flowers, make them look a little bit bigger if we want. Put that at the top of that leaf. So that's a really pretty layer. We've got the darker color in the back, the lighter color on top, and then Even come back in with just the pure white, rinse your brush off. Just got some pure white on my brush. Just give it even a little bit lighter highlight there. Just brushing part way around that circle. These are just supposed to be kind of fun, whimsical button rose flowers. If you have a different flower that you like to draw, by all means add it. I'd love to see what you come up with for your flower crown. Add that same style of highlight to the top of this leaf here. Kind of loosely brush that in over the tops there. If you took out too much green, you can always brush it back in. Add the veins back in since I've kind of painted over them as well. Shadowing. Add the shadowing to the bottom here. You can brush those veins back in. Use the black or kind of a gray color. Be very light and wispy with your lines here. Not too much pressure. Bring in some of that shadowing to your flowers. Just like a full strength black. A little bit of blue on top of that. I think the biggest thing to success in this kind of art is just to keep playing with it. Don't give up. It's not finished until you like the way it looks. So there's no pressure here. You're working from home at your own leisure. So just keep playing with it. Come back to it. Let it dry, and then you can come back and add some little greenery around the sides if you'd like. Hopefully you can see this. Let me zoom in just a little. So I'm going to rinse out my liner brush, and I'm just going to let everything just keep drying for just a few more moments. I'm going to pick up a little round brush and kind of go back in and add to the body design. I've got some dry paint, and I just kind of want to make it a little bit more opaque. So I'm not trying to cover everything I've already done. I'm just adding to like lightly brushing more color onto that dry paint, just giving it a second coat. And you don't want to totally cover your first coat, you just want to add to it. So I'm just kind of brushing areas that look like maybe the paint is thin. Pick up different colors. You know, this bottom area is supposed to stay darker. So you can, I'm making a little bit of black and a little bit of the dark brown over here. And I'll just kind of lightly brush that up. You know, start with the full strength down at the bottom and then lightly wisp it up into your project. But I really like the way the brush strokes look in the project. And I'm trying to keep that. If you want a real smooth project, then go ahead and just keep brushing over it until you don't see your brush strokes. But I just think the style of this project is really meant to show the brush strokes there. Accidentally got a little bit of blue in there, but I actually like it. Just keep that muzzle area, that gray. I'm gonna use the back of my brush and just give a few little specks here, like some freckles. Use the back of your brush, you can get some little dots in there. Go ahead and do that to the centers of these eyes again, now that that's dry. So I have my liner brush and I've kept it nice and pointed. When I dried it out, when I rinsed it and dried it off, I swirled it into a nice point. And we are going to give some eyelashes here. This side of my eye is still really wet, so I'm gonna start over here. And just right about where your eyeball starts, I'm gonna flick those little eyelashes to the side, and it's just really a light feathering. And they're pretty straight. It's not like a big curled falsie. And then with the liner brush, I'm just gonna soften those edges. I just picked up a touch of white to give a little bit of highlight there. Pick up some of this brown and give a little bit of shadowing to the eyeball itself. Okay, so that's a little bit wet. I'm gonna quit playing with it for now. And we'll do this side for the little lashes. Just this touch of the white to give it the highlight. If you need to hold your board up, you can, your canvas. Let's just go straight out. On the back of my brush, I'm going to move up here to these flowers for a second. Give them 3 little pollen dots here. So again, everything just needs to kind of dry down, dry out, and then you can keep adding to your layers. Kind of making a little gray here as a highlight down this area. Pick up a little blue in there as well. Too much blue. Add some more brown back into it. If you've covered up some of your lines and you like those lines that we established in the beginning, you can come back in and draw those in. Use a little bit of black or some gray. So I'm going to add a couple little green sprigs through here. I'm going to pick up that green and white. And I'm using a liner brush. Now that this area is pretty dry, I'm just going to tap lightly, create some greenery. So it's mostly white right now because it wouldn't show up on that brown with the green. So now that I've got the white on the background, you can come back in on top and add your greenery. That white just kind of acts like a primer. Put a couple little leaves down here. Just going back and forth with my brush. If you can see that. You push down and then you bring it this way. And then you can just come back on this side and do the same thing. Just picking up some green. I'm gonna add a tiny little bit of blue to brighten it up. So that's just your first coat. We'll have to let that dry and come back in with some more green. So at this point, I have some extra grays. I'm gonna come back in and add them to my background. Kind of feels like you're making a mistake because you're adding all that color to there, but it's just gonna add another dimension. You can come back in and mix that up some more. A stormy, a little cloudy afternoon. I don't want your painting to look too dry. So keep those layers going. Just don't get too close to your cow. Just trying to add to the background. Can pick up a little bit of water to spread that paint around. That'll blend nicely. This is supposed to be our lighter side, so remember that. We're not overworking this paint, remember that, okay? We're just trying to add another dimension, another top coat layer. I did not get this side earlier. Paint that in now. Some more green. So if this is your first time painting with me, I hope you've enjoyed yourself. We have lots of other kits and classes. This one was probably not the easiest project to start with. We have a bunch of wildflowers and some little trucks, a bunny, a bunch of different classes that you can paint along with. You're welcome to sketch this out on your own, or if you'd like to purchase a kit from me, you can do that as well. There's a link to my website. We do virtual classes as well as the at your own pace online videos. If you want to take an actual virtual class and paint along with the group, you can do that. We're located in Sutter Creek, California, so if you are in the Sacramento area, we do offer kits that we can ship to you. When our shelter-in-place orders have finished, you can come up and take a personal class in person. So there you have it, friends. Keep our brushes clean, rinsed and dried off. Definitely come back in and add some more highlights as this project dries. If you need anything, you feel free to give me a call or email me or text me. Here's our original. We did pretty good. It's really hard to paint something exactly the same twice, so don't feel like you're trying to get exactly what I've painted, because I can't even paint the same thing twice. Just kind of depends on the weather, on your mood, on all of the outside factors. So just enjoy yourself and keep painting. Take care. Thank you so much.